Hello friends, welcome to the session of Quality of India. Myself R.N. Vishwakarma, and in this session we are going to learn about goals of IATF 16949. Friends, before going to the goals of IATF 16949, first of all let's understand the evolution of IATF 16949. As far as the automotive quality standard goes, the first standard was QS 9000, which was primarily developed by General Motors, Ford and Chrysler. These are called three big giants of US auto industries. So they basically developed this standard, that is QS 9000, for their suppliers. But later on it was being adopted by other suppliers, other organizations also, because they felt that it's a very good system and they start implementing the system. This is going to be beneficial for improvement in their work practices and processes. Now the formal system of ISO was ISO TS 16949. Which was first launched in 1999. It was not called standard because it was a technical specification and it didn't get the required voting at ISO conclave, and the first version was 1999 version and the revision came in 2002. That was the second version of ISO TS, and the third edition came in 2009 after amendment in ISO version, that is 2008 version. So the ISO TS version came in 2009. So there were three revisions in ISO TS and the fourth revision was due. But later on, after getting lots of input from different suppliers, different certification bodies and auditors, when ISO 9001-2015 version came in, it was implemented with IATF 16949. So no ISO TS. Now it is called IATF, which was developed by International Automotive Task Force, and it was based on ISO 9001-2015 version. So we know that in ISO 9001-2015 version, there were some major changes and implementation of risk assessment or risk-based thinking that was being implemented, and accordingly IATF was also being changed, and the latest version of IATF 16949 2016 was launched. Now talking about IATF 16949, unlike ISO TS, wherein one standard we had requirement of ISO 9001 and also requirement of ISO TS. So both the contents were there in the same standard. But when we talk about IATF 16949, if you want to implement IATF 16949, you have to buy both the standard separately, and 9001 covers almost 70% of the content or the requirement of IATF 16949, which is a general quality management system requirement. And rest of the 30%, roughly 30% of the requirement pertaining to the automotive systems are from IATF standard. Okay, so this is how you have to implement if you want to go for IATF certification, or if you have already implemented, you have to understand, you have to implement requirement from both the standards. Now talking about the goals of IATF 16949, so primarily there are three goals and there are no changes in the goals. In fact, all these three goals were earlier there in ISO TS as well. Same goals are remaining in IATF 16949. So talking about the goals, you can see over here, the first goal talks about continual improvement. So continual improvement in what? Continual improvement in processes and practices prevailing in the organization. So your organization, whatever activities you are doing, whether you are doing some assembly or doing plating, painting, forging, casting, whatever activities you are doing, you must be having lot many processes, you must be having lot many practices in your organizations. So are there implementation of continual improvement practices in your organization for all the processes, and how to show evidences of implementation of continual improvement? Say for an example, talking about a function called quality assurance or product quality. So how to show my quality program is having continual improvement process? So typically there are multiple matrices used in organizations like rejection rate, rework rate, cost of poor quality, number of customer complaints. So if all these matrices are declining or improving day by day or month on month, you can show that it's a continual improvement journey. We are doing something, we are making amendment in the processes and practices. That's why our matrices are showing continual improvement trends. Say for an example, your rejection rate was at 10% last year, and this year month on month it is reducing, it has gone down from 10% to 5%, the first quarter, then it came down to 3%, then it came down to 2%, then you can show that there is a continual trend of improvement in the processes of production. That's why there is a reduction in rejection rate. Same way you can show continual improvement program running in production department by showing the trend of improvement in productivity, improvement in OE, that is overall equipment effectiveness. Same way you can show a continual improvement trend in maintenance department by showing trend of reduction in breakdown timings, okay, or improvement in mean time to repair, mean time between failure. So there are multiple matrices are there in each department, and there can be some processes in place. By showing the trends of all those processes, you can show that you are making continual improvement. So this is the first goal, and I've shared some of the examples also for let you understand how to show evidences of continual improvement in your processes. So this applies to all the department, all the functions, whether it is HR, admin, engineering, maintenance, okay. So all the function, irrespective of the processes and practices you are carrying out, all the company must be having continual improvement program in place. Now coming to the second goal talks about defect prevention. So typically whenever there are some defects, some issues are there, we deep dive, we identify the root cause and we initiate action. That is typically called corrective action. Now here it talks about prevention. So how to make prevention? We have a practice called FMEA, that is failure modes and effect analysis. So failure modes and effect analysis is a preventive approach. So during the product development only, we do FMEA to identify potential failure modes and we initiate action before the failure starts happening. That's a preventive approach. So it's not only FMEA, but there can be similar approaches in all the functions, all the processes, wherein we can take preventive measures to prevent defect occurrences. And that's what the requirement in the second goal. Third one talks about reduction of variation and waste in supply chain. What exactly is supply chain? We need to understand that. So supply chain means it's the complete chain of supply, starting from your supplier to your organization to the supplier. So you get some consumables, you receive some raw material from your supplier, different services from your vendors, okay, and those services, products are delivered to you. You do some value addition, you do some processing, okay, and then you do packaging, labeling and dispatch the material to your customer. So throughout this value chain, supply chain, whatever variations are there and whatever waste are there, that has to be targeted and there has to be trend of continual reduction and elimination of both variation and waste. So technically calling, variation cannot be eliminated, you need to only minimize, but waste can be eliminated, waste can be reduced also. Now broadly speaking, reduction of variation talks about Six Sigma approach in a sense, and elimination of waste is basically can be done through lean management or lean manufacturing system. We know that in lean management there are 7 types of waste which is being identified by Team Wood. So T stands for transportation, I stands for inventory, M stands for motion, W stands for waiting, O stands for overproduction, second O stands for overprocessing, and D stands for defect. So all these are basically waste in the processes, and this can be there at supplier end, at your organization and the value chain. Okay, so you need to identify all these waste. I need to work on elimination or reduction of waste. So you can use Six Sigma approach, you can use lean approach for reduction or elimination of this waste and variation. So it doesn't talk about Six Sigma lean directly, but indirectly it gives a hint. You can use those methodologies, or you can use some other best practices also. So ultimately the aim is to identify the variation in the processes and waste in your supply chain and start working on them so that we can minimize them. That's what the aim over here. So friends, these are the 3 goals: continual improvement, defect prevention and reduction of variation and waste in supply chain. And this is same as ISO TS 16949. This applies to automotive industry, but this is very important to not to use only in automotive industry. If you are using in some other industry also, not an issue, still there will be continual improvement in your processes and your practices, and will be beneficial for the organization as well.